Hey folks, so we're back on the second dev server for the Danger Zone update coming soon to War Thunder. I have a few things I want to show you. There's some changes to some in-game radar and weapon interfaces, and we've got some new vehicles. So let's jump in and start checking this out. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you, I'm not going to use the F-14 because the Phoenix missiles get a weapons lock almost instantaneously, but check this out. So I've got a lock on this MiG-15. I've got a semi-active radar missile. When I spool it up, I'm green. It's color-coded now. And the circles will turn red once I get a strong enough lock and I'm ready to actually fire. So the weapons spool up and weapon lock interface for radar-guided missiles is color-coded. With the Phoenix, since it's an active radar missile, it literally just goes red after 1 second, and the missile is immediately spooled up. But you can see there, as the radar lock was getting stronger, there we go. So it changed from green to red. So I think that's going to be a useful change for folks who need a little bit more of an obvious visual indication as to what's going on. And of course it means I've got to make a new video about air-to-air missiles in War Thunder. But that's fine, it was due for an update anyway. Alright, let's switch over to the next thing. So in case you're curious, the color-coded change also applies to infrared-guided missiles. Here we are with an R-60. You saw it was green, then it turned red. So we're green while we're spooling up, and then we're red after we get a lock. Okay, here's what that looks like with the Phoenix. We've got a lock on this MiG-15, and our aiming circle immediately goes red. So we got that strong active lock right off the rail. Alright, let's check out the next thing. Okay, so we've got some changes on air-to-ground weapons as well. You're going to notice out in front of me, I've got the CCRP on for the cannon, and we've just got that green crosshair. When we aim down, it changes from the 4 to the 8 points. And you're also going to notice that the CCRP for the bombs is green instead of brown. So that's a relatively significant departure from what we've seen in the past. So it'll be interesting to see if that makes it into the live game. It'll be a lot more of a visual contrast, when you're using the CCRP in order to be able to actually tell what you're aiming at. I've also noticed that a lot of the interface elements in the game seem to have a somewhat pleasant black highlight around them. It makes them a little bit more visually distinctive. And if you check out the OSD in the upper left, the fonts look a lot more clear. So that's definitely an interesting change. I don't know how well it's going to turn out or how obvious it's going to be once this renders and YouTube does its processing. But the font and the clarity, the crispness of the displayed characters on the OSD is dramatically better than in the live game. Alright, let's check out the next thing. Okay, so the next thing I have to show you is kind of a big deal. They have unified the interface for air-launched guided weapons between aircraft and helicopters. Let me show you. I've got the KH-25ML, and using the sensor point of interest, you're going to notice it's the big rectangle instead of the little square, just like a helicopter. And when I lock a target, I get the red crosshairs on it. LGMs are currently bugged on this dev server. They're not tracking all the way in. They immediately lose their track. But the interface is now unified between aircraft and helicopter. So that is kind of a big deal. Now here's another thing I'm going to show you. You're probably thinking, well, what about when you switch views into the laser designator view? That is now different as well. Let me just roll out here. I didn't do that. I didn't aim down. It did that on its own. So it automatically adjusted the view to like sort of center where we were at. And this functionality, you can't see my key presses, but this is working exactly like a helicopter. Where hitting my keybind for the sensor point of interest like locked the laser and allowed me to... it like locked the laser to the point on the ground. So that's now functioning exactly like a helicopter. So kind of a big change there. All right, on to the next thing. Okay, so the new helicopter user interface elements also hold true for TV guided weapons. Here we've got some Mavericks. You can see when we switched into the camera there, that was the same, but we still have the sensor point of interest unified to work like a helicopter. Oh, excuse my... So we've still got the... We don't get the red plus, but we do have the red square that's much larger than the regular one. So as far as I can tell, I played around with this for a few minutes. The functionality for the TV-guided missiles is working on the dev server. It seems to function the same as it did before, except that we have that larger sensor point of interest. So I suspect that they're going to also add in like the red plus indicator when you've got an auto tracker lock. So we'll see what happens with that. On to the next thing. Okay, so for unguided rockets as well, if you look out in front, you're going to notice that the user interface elements for the unguided rockets, they're green outlined in black. So that's a little bit different. And if I turn on my CCRP there, you're going to notice we still have basically the same cursors we had before, but it's a lot more visually distinct. I know that opinions are going to be mixed about these interface elements like green highlighted in black, and the snail may add in a way to change that, but I think it's good. I'm liking it. It's a higher contrast sort of a user interface element, and I think it's going to make it easier to aim those weapons, when you don't have your face like 3 inches away from the monitor. So, all right, let's go on to the next thing. Okay, so next thing I want to show you, CCRP functionality seems to be exactly the same. There are no changes there. The user interface elements are all still exactly identical to what they were before, except that our sensor point of interest is the large red square taken from the helicopter user interface. So if you're using it like I did there to just attack a static ground target instead of a base, hopefully that'll be a little bit more visually distinct. But like the large black line and everything, it's not going to show it because my bomb's on reload, but the large black line and everything was still unchanged. All right, on to the next thing. Okay, for anyone who is curious, the user interface in ground battles for tanks is unchanged. It does not seem to have any of that highlighting effect or anything that was present when controlling an aircraft. So this is all essentially unchanged for ground vehicles. Okay, next up, we have a couple of new vehicles. We have a new Stuka, the Ju-87 R2 Libya. It's a premium in the German air tree, so that's always kind of interesting to see there. It looks like it's going to be in rank 1. It's not entirely clear how you get this. I don't know if it's going to be a pack, if it's going to be GEs, if it's going to be like an event prize or something like that. But we've got a new Stuka. And here, this was rumored in some leaks, but it looks to be confirmed. We have an ROC Taiwan F5E in the Chinese air tree. So down here at the bottom below the F5A, F5E, it's incomplete. There's no There's no loadouts or anything like that on it. But in a quick test flight, it seems to fly exactly the same as the F5E in the American tech tree. So that's going to be an interesting dogfighter edition coming to the Chinese air tree over here on the left-hand line. And I'm going to be very interested to see what it gets for air-to-ground weapons. It looks like they're also bringing custom weapon loadouts to a lot more aircraft. Here are some MiG-21s with some asymmetrical custom weapon loadouts. So that is going to be interesting to see how that ends up playing out once the patch goes live. Okay, so they also claim that some changes have been made to the inertial guidance radio updates on the Phoenix missile. So I'm trying a really long-range shot here, and I'm just going to see what happens. Now, this is something I specifically asked the devs if I could get some clarification on, and I didn't get an answer, at least not yet. So I'm just going to see what happens here. I'm just going to follow the missile in. Yeah, and it seems that it did. It climbed a bit to gain speed, and now it seems to be losing its inertial tracking and pitching down and going into its pitbull mode, where it turns on its active seeker. So that seems to be a little bit more like the missile reacts in reality. So that was interesting to see. I'll be doing a bunch more testing. I'll post, I'll do, probably not a video, but I'll make a post here on YouTube if I notice any other, like, really significant updates or anything like that. But I just thought that last change with the Phoenix, it seems to be working a little bit better now, a little bit more reliably compared to how it was on the first dev server. So if there's any other major updates, I'll do a post about it. But that's going to be it for now. So as always, thanks for watching.